All right. Hey, welcome. Thank you for tuning in to yet another great episode of You Didn't Get the Memo. I'm your host, Gloria Bailey Reagan. As always, hey, we have a fantastic show. I'm just going to tell you, this guest today, off the hook, off the chain, and we're just going to get deep. We're going to get into it, and we're going to talk. But I want to just remind all of you who are new to You Didn't Get the Memo, and those of you who are not, You Didn't Get the Memo show is about providing you, the viewer, with relevant, factual, mainstream information to help you be informed and to make informed decisions. As I said, if you are new to the show, please, you have comments, you have questions, place them in the comment section there, and we'll do our very best to respond to you and get you some answers, right? In the meantime, let me just say that my guest today is marriage and family therapist, and actually, he's a mentor, an educator, and he's a therapist. It is Mr. Ron Osborne-Williams. So whether you are single, whether you are married, whether you are divorced, raising children, whether you are wanting to date, whether you are in a relationship and you're asking yourself, how the heck did I get here? Let me just say that my guest today has something for all of you. So you're going to get your pen and pad and take some notes, because this is going to really and truly help you. So again, my guest, Mr. Ron C. Osborne-Williams, he's currently completing his doctoral research in marriage and family therapist. As a mentor, educator, and a therapist, he is passionate about experiences that afford him the opportunity to help and empower individuals, couples, families to strengthen and heal their relationships with themselves and with others by understanding the ways in which contextual factors such as race, such as class, such as gender, age, nationality, religion, sexual orientation impacts the mental, the emotional, the relational, the spiritual, and social well being of underserved groups in our society. But before I bring my guest on, let me just level set for a minute. Did some research, and it's probably not news to you, but when we talk about, first of all, just look at marriage and divorce rates in the US. The US divorce rate per 1,000 married women. Listen, every 13 seconds, there's one divorce in America. So basically, that equates to about 277 divorces per hour. Basically 2,419,196 divorces a year. And let me just say, in the time that it takes a couple to actually recite their vows, there are 9 divorces that have actually taken place. And the main thing has to do with what people refer to as lack of commitment. That was the biggest thing. Arguing too much, infidelity, married too young, unrealistic expectations, lack of equality in the relationship, lack of preparation for marriage. And that's why you want to be on with my guest today, because we're going to hopefully hit a lot of these areas and places. So I would like to welcome to the show, Ron. Thank you so much for being here with me. East Coast, West Coast in the house. I am so happy to have you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. First off, let me just say this. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to have someone want to hear anything I want to say. So Ms. Bailey Ray, I want to thank you for having me on today. I know a lot of people um, would say, "Oh, I hear a lot of stuff from him in the streets, and he doesn't get to meet him." But it is grateful, and I'm very grateful that you decided to interview me and let me share some knowledge from the experience I've been working with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just kind of get in. And you heard me kind of level set some of the things we're going to talk about. And even though I gave statistics about divorces, but still, we know, and I've had conversations with you, and this could morph into a 5-hour show at this point and still not cover everything. So we're going to do our very best to get to people who have questions conversations and to talk about the things that we know are impacting relationships on a whole. But let's just start with you just telling the viewers a little bit about your backstory. You know, where you grew up, what influenced you as a child, and what prompted you to go into becoming a therapist.
So I think one of the biggest parts, and when we're talking about relationships, this time when we are infants and when we find out where we were developed from and how our parents brought us into the world or how they brought us into the world is a great important of where who I am and who I became. When I was born, I was a teenage child. I mean, from teenage parents, and when you think about being that, there's this love that you have that but the not togetherness love, and I think that knowing that both parents kind of loved me, but were too young to really understand all of that, that became really important. I grew up, I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I kind of didn't end up growing up in Philadelphia because my mother was a teen and then she ended up getting remarried, and my stepfather was in the Navy, and we ended up moving to Jacksonville, Florida. So I have this Jacksonville, Florida, Philadelphia connection um, going on there. But the one thing I think that most important that probably got me to where I am is that, and probably more than anything else, is that when I moved to Jacksonville, I was considered, low standard academic wise, and that then put me into special ed. I mean, I think that sometimes people don't even think about special ed in the capacity of today, but it put me in special ed. I was behind, and then I got in behavior problems because I was in that class, and it's just the transition of all of that. I remember clearly. People, I say today, how did I get to where I'm at today? Is because I think that I was told that when I was in special education, that I remember a teacher in Jacksonville telling me, you will never amount to, anything. You'll probably end up in jail or, dead because you're just too bad and you're just destructive and this and that. And I didn't think that I was that destructive, or what have you, but um, I might have just been rambunctious, and as many boys are rambunctious, and so we found out that didn't happen, and it wasn't until I got to like sixth grade, and I have this pinpoint marker in my mind, making it to sixth grade, because that was the same year the spaceship Challenger blew up. And that's when my whole life began to change because there was a teacher who seen more into me and said that this kid is smart. He knows a lot. He's intelligent. He does have a disability as and I a writing expression disability, and that can become problems. So it really was ultimately having dyslexia, and when you put that in play, many people shy away from doing writing and certain things, and that really just built me up. That strength that teacher gave me pushed me all the way through high school, band, and then into college. And I guess in college, my disability is where I really begin to learn how I got involved in psychology. I went to school to become a school teacher, a special education school teacher, like many of us do, and those things. And then I decided, well, uh, I went to take some psychology classes, and that you do sometimes. You take those psychology classes and you say, okay, this is good. And the next thing I knew, I was taking all the psychology classes. And what really set me back was that you had to take certain kind of exams that was to student teach to do these things, and I had difficulties doing that. And so by the time I was able to pass tests, I had already finished a degree in psychology, and I was focused. And I remember the class that made me think about motivation, and that's one of the main things, that motivation class. And what is our motives for the things that we do? And that comes very important when we think about relationships and what happens and why people in relationships and why they're not, and even my own motivation to make sure that no matter what happened, I was going to get. And so, I mean, I went from there, graduated with both of those degrees, in the one in the spring and then one in the winter. And from there, I kind of went away to do real work in the Peace Corps. I went to the Peace Corps and did some Peace Corps work, doing special education. And I came back and I thought that I was going to be like this educator. And I was working in the school system, and I was being a special education teacher. And what was the pinnacle moment when I realized that we need more Black therapists, in our community is that I went to a student's house because I had a mentality that doing home based work was something that was good, even though I was people was like, you're not supposed to go to the kid's house, but I was like, why not? I've been going to their house when I was a bachelor levels home based therapist, so I know how to maneuver in the streets of Philadelphia and go to different houses. So I went to one student's house. He was a really good student that I had, but he wasn't going to get a regular diploma. And I remember clearly that I felt that someone dropped the ball between the school and his mother and his house. And when I told his mother he wasn't gonna get a regular diploma, she was devastated, and I didn't know what to really even say to her or to do because I was just a special ed teacher. At that moment, I said, "Yo, I need to go and find a way to be more therapeutic in what I'm doing." I had learned all that in my psychology class. I understood the theories. I understand, it. And so I went off to Florida to pursue marriage and family therapy degree, and I was teaching again and doing those things and working again with disabled students, and then I got involved from there into domestic violence and empowerment of women in domestic violence.
Right.
That added into this where my relationship power really came to be because I became a therapist who knew and understood domestic violence, and that's a very powerful therapeutic skill to have.
Yes, yes, it most certainly is. And you said something that was really key. We really need to have more black and brown men so that our children can see and look up. And how many times have we heard the story? I mean, over and over. You're not going to amount to anything. You're not. Rather than lifting a person up and really motivating them and really encouraging them, that I just think that that is really, really so critical at this day and age. And right now, of course, dealing with the pandemic, our Black and Brown children are so far behind as it relates to so many things. And we already know just the math skills alone is lacking. But when you actually place on top, the problems that are happening within the home, the problems that the kids are going through, I mean, it's just this great big conundrum of things that are just happening. So I'm happy to know, and I've had a chance to sit in on some of your shows, and we're going to get to that. I normally try not to bring in things, but you just talked about some things, and I think that it's going to be important for a lot of the women to hear some of these things. But let me just ask you this. Let's just start with this. What are some of the major, the most common things that you actually hear that couples fight about? Now, I threw out some statistics around, what the things are, but what are those main things that people fight about, in your
Well,
opinion?
yeah, in my opinion, I think that people have these core things that they fight about, but they're not. That's not the true thing. You
Right.
have
Come on now.
you have infidelity, you have finances, you have um communication, you have other family outside of family. You have all of these things that people end up fighting about and getting in arguments about and having problems when you really saying, oh well, this is the reason why our relationship ended because of your infidelity. The reason is because he refused, she refused to get a job, and or even in many cases non-consensual children. That's another reason that those relationships end. And
Hmm.
what is the real root of all of those is people being honest about who they are with their partner and agreeing what they want or what they don't want and how they deal with wanting and not wanting something.
Right. And I hear that that to me boils down to one word: communication.
Yes.
I mean, I'm talking about true, honest communication. Because see, when people are in it, they'll kind of say, "Oh yeah, that's
Let, let,
I can
let,
deal with that."
let me
But
let me say this.
okay,
Communication again is another cop out there. You need effective, active communication. Because communication is, oh, you're gonna pick the kids up? Yeah, I pick the kids up.
right, right,
And
right.
that was communicate. Yeah, they communicated, but what time I got to pick the kids up? Where I'm got to pick the kids up from?
Yes, yes,
What do you have to do before you pick the kids up? What do you have to do after you pick the kids up? That doesn't happen. Those
right.
things that happen, and then that's where the arguments start.
Right.
You was late to pick up the kids. That's the argument. Well, I didn't tell you that I had to go do this before I do this after. I just said I'll pick up the kids.
Hmm.
Those kind of things
Right.
are what really causes problems, because then people are saying this person inconsiderate. They're not trustworthy. They
Hmm.
don't they they're not dependable. They're only thinking about themselves. When really we have to both, when we go into relationships,
Hmm.
both agree that we're both not perfect human beings,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that we are going to work. Marriages are so Disney fairy tale. Everybody wants the wedding with the beautiful cake and the gown, and
Yes.
all. They want to have a great memory. But one of the problems with having that is, what have you done to work on you becoming two people that become one? And a lot of times they haven't did that. Even
Right.
when they're pouring the sand at the wedding with each other, they
Yeah.
still haven't became one at that moment.
Right.
It takes some work underneath
Yeah.
the ceremonial activity that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for just even expounding on that, because the word, the work, and people come into relationships, in terms of just not even being prepared to go into marriage, because all they know is maybe what they saw their parents do, or if they were in a single family home, this is what happened, this is what happened. But you said the word WORK. It really is. It's the word. And then when you talk about that work and that communication piece, it's not just, yeah, I got it. There's a commercial that shows where the guy walks in and he's talking about he went and picked up food, and the wife is looking and said, did you forget something? And he's like, no, what? And she said, your daughter. And so, that's a perfect example of how, in terms of just that whole level of communication and understanding. So, I think that, that allows us to kind of level set. And so it leads me into the next question for you. Or, we talked about what couples fight about, but the most common complaints, and I'm going to break it down. What's the most common complaint, first of all, that you hear from married people? What do you hear from single people? And what do you hear from divorced people? So let's start with the most common complaint that you actually hear from married people. And I know there's a lot, but I also know that there's kind of like a running theme that seems to kind of come up with married couples as well.
Well, let me say this, because I can only really talk about, and I don't, because I don't entertain people who not, when we're talking about what I hear from people, it would be what I've heard from them in the therapeutic setting. And so when they're coming to that setting because they want some change in whatever has ever occurred in their relationship. Or a lot of times when we're doing premarital things with people, are pre-relational um therapy or counseling, they are wanting to kind of develop, finding out who they are and how do they combine with this person. So one of the things, the most important thing is, how do how do I connect with this person? Because initially, we know that for all of those relationship dynamics that you describe, the first thing that's important is attraction. No one gets married, no one gets into a relationship, sexual, non-sexual, anything, even platonic friends. It all based on attraction.
Right,
Now,
right,
the problem is, after the attraction is over, what do you have left to build on a relationship with this person?
right.
That's where a lot of the problems occur. So so if if hey, I got this attraction, I like to be around them, I love them, but nothing else about them can keep me, then I'm not really going to stay. And then that's when you see wandering eyes, or people saying, "Well, I have other things to focus on. I'm looking at other things." But
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, and just to really answer your question, 'cause let me answer your question. Let's go
Yeah,
with
go
married
ahead.
people. Married people, most of the time, if they have kids, it is the balance of the work and the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It is sometimes the empowerment of a lot of people feel like they're doing all the work and the other person's not doing any work.
Right.
Like, and they don't really can't really see each other's perspective. So sometimes we have to go in and examine the two perspectives. I take care of the kids, I do this, and I work and I do this. And sometimes you see the partner says, yeah, I work, but I work a lot more demanding, and the pressure. And I think that when I'm dealing with couples, and I think that goes even when you go to dating couples, we have to understand, and sometimes people don't realize that there are men in our society who are still trying to become the man they want to be. I,
Say that.
I have
Oh
a
my
daughter.
gosh. Ooh.
I have a daughter, and one of the things I would
Oh
tell
my
her,
God.
one of the things I would tell her is, do not pressure any man to be with you until he is the man he wants to be, because
Right.
there's going to be a failure in your relationship. You're not going to have a relationship with them because they're always going to be trying to still be working on who they are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you can't do two things at once. You can't build a relationship and work on who you are. And
Right.
when he builds the relationship with you, and it doesn't work out anymore, and I don't know, I have to always be mindful with anybody. That could be man, woman, man and man, woman
Right.
and woman. Let me be clear.
Right.
Let me be as they say, inclusive to everybody.
Right.
When you have that, one person has to really become who they already want to be able to get in. Sometimes people don't have to be that. Sometimes people are comfortable with just becoming a part of something and don't have to be anything. But the
Right.
person that you want to, sometimes are taking a dominant role in relationships, they really need to be who they're going to be, especially if you expecting them to be some type of provider. If you're
Right.
expecting them to give, and you got to also remember that you might want them to provide some ways, but where did they learn to provide the other ways that you're looking for?
Right. And that comes back to doing the work, having the discussion, talking about it, because how many times have you seen, um, and like you said, let's be all inclusive. But as a woman, I would say they meet a man, and then the woman's trying to grow this man into being a man, right? Or vice versa. The man has met this woman and he's trying to grow her into and make her what it is that he wants. And both you, when you're working on yourself, that's why for me, I guess I look at it is unless you have done the work and you really know who you are, whose you are, what you are about, it's really tough to get into what I say is a long-standing relationship that will work. And a lot of times you just find people say, well, when I met him, he was like this. And of course, as you said early on, you look at people and the attraction is there. But when I hear people complain, you know what? He's nasty. He don't pick up after himself.
He always he didn't that wasn't brand new. That was something he had always been. He had been
Right,
that his whole life.
right,
What happened is you didn't care. We didn't care as people. We don't care about those things. We care about what we want
right,
from the person,
right,
and that
right.
becomes another difficulty in relationship. We want
Mm-hmm,
what we want from the person, regardless
right.
of what that person is and what they want. We want what they want. If they don't give us what we want, sometimes we resort to our childish ways, and again we
Mm-hmm,
do things that then sets the relationship off in ways that people
right.
don't like, and then you see relationships ending based on that. And sometimes you have people who are so needy for things, like this idea that, you know I've always said that I've been very comfortable to not be a person who is looking for love, because I felt like I got all the love. I never questioned did my mother love me. I never questioned did my father love me. I never questioned did my stepfathers love me. I never questioned did any member of my family love me. I never questioned that. So when I come into a relationship, I don't need love to build a relationship. I'm already loved. What I would like to do is build love with somebody. But building that love comes with trust. It comes with so many other dynamics than other than what mass media shows us. Mass media shows us this idea of love, and we don't. Right now, we have some very bad media images to define how we should be in love. A lot of it is very toxic, and it's very salacious. So you have to be mindful that you're saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be like them." How about just being like who you are? And I think
Thank you.
that's one of our biggest problems.
Yes,
When we get in
yes.
a relationship, we want our relationship to be compare and contrast to other people. How about
Mm-hmm.
it compare and contrast to how we are as a couple? I
Yes.
think a number of relationships that I personally was in, that if we didn't worry about other people, our relationships could have continued and we could have lived happily ever after. But
Mm-hmm.
people were concerned about what other people thought instead of concerned about what your partner has to offer you and what they thought. Because in the end of the road, when you alone and you by yourself, the same people gonna be right there alone and by yourself. with you. So, so
Yeah, you can say that again, and that is so very true. Ron, listen, we're going to take just a really quick break. You
okay.
guys don't go anywhere. I love your comments. I'll put them up in just a bit. But when we come back, I want to talk about something that I heard you on the show say. And the question that I have, and I'm going to give you a moment to ponder on it, but I know you already have a response to that, is that why should some women or men not discount someone that doesn't make as much money as they do? And we're going to talk about somebody we know.
You know that's my pet peeve. Uh-oh.
So you guys don't go anywhere. I'm here with Mr. Ron C. Osborne-Williams, and we're bringing it all the way down in terms of relationships, and we're just getting down to the nitty gritty. So we'll be right back. You guys don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for tuning in.
I work out every day. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 24. COVID won't kill me.
I have antibodies. COVID won't kill me.
It's been a long week. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 25. COVID won't kill me.
I'm partying outside. COVID won't kill
I
me.
don't need to wear a mask around my friends. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 23. COVID won't kill me.
If I haven't gotten it yet, COVID won't kill me.
I'm young. COVID won't kill me.
Famous last words. Don't let them be yours. Socially distance. Mask up, America.
Because the fight isn't over yet.
You will see me choose to protect my community by wearing a face cover.
And even with my face covered,
you will see me.
As a son.
As a man with a never quit attitude.
As a fighter for change.
Join me in wearing a face cover.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because this is one small act of kindness
that has the power to make a big difference.
All right, if you guys are just tuning in and if you've been hanging in here with me, I have, my East Coast, I'm just going to claim you, my East Coast brother, Mr. Ron Osborne-Williams, and we're just talking about relationships. And y'all, it's something for you to really take in and ponder, because that's really what the show is about, providing you with relevant, factual, mainstream information to help you be informed and make informed decisions. And in relationships, there's a lot of things that need to be considered and talked about and discussed. But before we went to break, I posed this question to Ron because I heard him on the show, and I was just, I was just beating my desk. And the question was, why should women or men not discount someone that doesn't make as much money as they do? And this is around the context of, I think it was Vivica Fox that made a comment about why she got divorced. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
And I think this is so crucial in our society, because money has become one of the major barriers to people having relationships today. When we were, and listen, I have to say, and I people don't say it, I would say that this could fit for everybody, but I'm going to talk exclusively about Black couples and Black women and Black men in relationships, and not even that. Let's talk about people who may not come from a social economical background that's high. Let me say that better.
Yeah.
That's better than to use race.
Right.
Social economical background is high, because when we get involved with somebody and when we start to get in a relationship, we might have started off both poor in that relationship, because what I find a lot of times is that people who are poor stay together longer. I just seen people who are poor, who are working class, struggling people. They have very less problems.
That's true.
Other than that, they just poor.
Yeah.
Than other couples, because it's them against the world, and they do whatever they can to kind of make everything work. But when you get into a point where you're talking about, college educated, upper middle class people, you start to see that, yes, there is this trend. And I think a lot of times for Black women who are, this is an honor to be some of the most educated persons, I would almost say on earth. So not just in the United States, but on earth, there are some of the most educated persons on earth compared to their male counterparts. Not to say male counterparts, because I can tell you, I know plenty of men who are educated just like myself, but they may also not make the finances that they need. to make so when someone is deciding and they're going back into this fairy tale idea
Yeah.
that I
Yes.
need me a man who can provide for me. And we had this guy who's out here talking about high value men and high value women, and I don't see a clear definition. But to
Hmm.
me, it's more high value character because you can have all the money in the world and not mean
Yes.
anything to anybody.
Yes.
Just because you got money doesn't is not anything. It's what
Hmm.
you do with your money and how who helps you facilitate it. So you can have a husband who makes no money. I mean, and but he has all the resources and connection based on his work of what he does. He
Hmm.
might not make $200,000. He may only make $50,000, but he works at the grassroots level. You work in a corporation where you're one of the employees who make that money. He works on the grassroots where he talks to mayors, he talks to police chiefs, he
Come
talks to all
on.
kind of, and he only makes a certain amount of money because the work he does is not a revenue driven. It's like nonprofit work.
Hmm.
And you mean to tell me that this man who can who can fix something at your job for you, he can fix something at your job for you because he has no money. He don't have no money. He don't have no money. Only money he have is y'all together have $250,000 income, and he bringing the 50.
Right.
But the question is, are you looking for a man to provide for you? Are you looking for a husband to provide? Are you looking for someone to walk with you in your life? Because
Mm.
when the money comes together, it should be your money. And I know we have the theory, and all I can always think about is movies have did a lot of things to us. Waiting to Exhale has a scene that we love the scene when she burned up the clothes and the car and all that, but we forget why she did that. You see, we love that scene, but we
Right.
forget that. And I agree, what he did was wrong. If you built money together as a husband and wife, you can, as a man, say, "I'm gonna use this money to do whatever I want with."
Right.
That's not partnership. That's not a team. If you ran a business, if your relationship and marriage was a team and a business, you wouldn't say, "Well, I'm gonna take this money to do this," without having a clear conversation with your partner,
Exactly.
decide how this was going to benefit or hurt you guys, how long would it take,
Hmm.
and who and what would be the outcome and what would be the plus of doing it. I remember this was a person saying, and this social media guy said his wife was a stay-at-home wife and she wanted to start a business. He told her that she had to do a business plan to present it to him and the family. And I see people got up in arms. And I thought about this and I said, why are you getting up in arms?
Hmm.
Because if his income is most of the income, if you say, oh yeah, just start a business and that's not going to be successful, so his money that's coming in that he's working, and this goes for both ways. This could be a man, a
Right.
woman,
Right. Right.
whatever. If you have the person who's making the most income, and the other person said, well, I want to start a shoe business. Well, you want to start selling shoes? How you going to do it? How's it going to work out? Let's see how that's going to affect our money.
Hmm.
Don't just say, well, it's my money. I can do what I want. I can see how I want to do it. To invest it, we have to investigate and see how it all plays out. And a lot of times it doesn't play out in that same way.
Yeah. And see, people just really and truly don't, as you say, they don't come together and really look at it. And then on the other hand, though, you have whether it's the male in the relationship or the female that feel like, I'm bringing home the money. But I just want to say to everybody that's out there, look, whether you're a housewife, I tell people all the time, you people don't have any idea all the things that I'm talking about somebody that's really in it as a housewife, as a mother that's making the house run, that's paying the bills, that's doing all. It's so many things that go into it. So let's not discount what that person does bring to the table just
As
because you making a lot of money.
I'm about to tell you, we have to get out of this idea of living for other people.
Yes.
I let me tell you how many men I know. I know at least 3 close personal friends of mine who they have children, and the men are the men who stay at home
Yes.
because because their significant others were able to make the money, made more money.
Hmm.
And then it became a point where after the baby, the mom felt like she was missing. But I heard this from both two of fathers that the mother felt like she was missing and she wanted to spend more time at home. And she said, "Well, maybe you should go get a job." Now, understanding that this man ain't gonna get a job equaling to the income you making. If
Right.
he is, he gonna have to get 2 jobs. And we don't like to acknowledge this, but it's true that it is not easy, even as for a well educated minority person, if you want to say minority person, I try to keep all the correct,
I get
so we
it.
don't be, because if it was on my own platform, I say what I want to say, but
Right.
I want to make sure that people don't be trying to cancel or do some foolishness. Say, oh, you had that guy on there saying stuff. They can come cancel me because I don't got nothing. I still be good in the streets, as I say.
Okay.
But I say that to say,
Spoken like a brother from Philly.
so what one of the things that can what will occur is that he would have to go get 2 jobs, right? So he get 2 jobs,
Sure.
and then she came home and she was taking care of the kid, and then it was kind of like, I miss working. And where you at now? I don't have the same. And this is one of the breakdowns of relationship. We
Yes.
don't have the same relationship we had when I worked and you worked a little small job and took care of the majority of the time of the child, and we was making out okay, because guess what? You were home when I came home, and we had also still our own relationship time. This
Yes.
is what people sometimes when we have kids, our
Yes.
relationships don't end when we have kids. They are there as our legacies, but we need to be, cultivating our relationships as
Yes.
partners still.
Right.
Not, it doesn't end when we have a kid. We see the kids to continue to cultivate our relationship, and we still need each other, because this world out here is against us. And that's
Yeah.
the way I tell people to look at it. Even when you got a family, I remember telling many clients that, listen, you have one family, the people who live in your house. So you, your partner, and your child, that's your family. I know
Yeah.
you got all these other family members, all the people involved, but your family come first. And if you don't put your family first, your relationship in your house will be
Yeah,
in rubble.
yeah. And you can't have it both ways. You decide you want to come home from a $200,000 a year job, and you've been afforded a certain lifestyle. So now he's out doing, the job. And we know this is real. That's a whole nother conversation, how the setup. But for, a person of color, a male, to go out and he says, okay, I got to provide. And the pressure is on. I need to provide. So guess what? I'm gonna take this $35,000 a year job over here, but then I'm gonna work this $25,000 a year job here. But we've got to cut back on some things, and those are the things. And the thing that I love, at least when I look at social media, for instance, there was this thing going around where the woman got married to the guy, and he was making clearly a lot more money, but she made good money. But she decided that she needed to upgrade her weave that she was wearing, and he was really upset. You spend $1,000 for some hair, and she couldn't grasp, what his thought process. He said, when you met me, you were wearing a weave and you were maintaining. Now, because girlfriends have told her, girl, you can get some better hair, right? And not understanding the full picture of how that $1,000 every 4 weeks or every 3 weeks, is going to impact your household. And then it became an argument. And what I thought was, wow, isn't that really interesting that you want this to play out on Facebook? But the thing is, people do those things, and it comes all the way back to us being able to have that discussion, to talk about it. Because your girlfriend, when you guys are split, let me tell you, they're still going to be sitting over there doing whatever they do, or he could be doing whatever he do. And here's the interesting thing. What I have also noticed is that some of those same people that are feeding into your ear, when they get into a relationship, what they have learned by watching you, what they're not going to do. So you find that they cut you off. Because why? Because my relationship is more important to me than what you're over here telling me. Because see, I had to learn. So those are the things, and that's why I wanted you just kind of talk about, we need to be really careful, because the man who may be making less money, but he has a greater bandwidth to be able to do and to meet and to know other people. And we see that in the movies. He's working in a steel factory, but I'm married to somebody who's rich but got chicks on the side and doing all these other things.
Yeah, listen, you have to listen. Every choice has a consequence.
Yes.
You don't get to determine what the consequence is.
Yes.
And there is no perfect person who has all the positive traits that you want. There's
Mhm.
some things that you're going to have to balance off. There are some ideas, we say this, we look and say, oh, this is ideal person. This person is perfect. I love them. This is the person I want, and they do everything I want. But guess what also happens? We develop and we change.
Yes. Yes.
That's the other part that people forget. That most couples, there's a large majority of couples who
Mhm.
stay together for the benefit of their children, and then they go through these midlife
Yes.
crises after the kids are all out of empty nest and they're together because they have nothing else in common because they didn't develop their relationship when they were having their kids. So they
Mhm.
are completely two separate people living in a
Right.
home now. And now things that they do with each other are so aggravating
Right.
that is like Oscar and Felix from the Odd Couple. I,
Yes.
I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you do that. It's because they hadn't cultivated their relationship over the
Right.
time
Right.
and they had the kids in the home and they didn't spend enough time together. So one thing I say that you have to make time. Make time for yourself and remember that kids are a joy, but they're also here to challenge you in your parenting.
Yes.
Listen, I had a friend of mine. They had one child, one son. And I say, okay, y'all good, because y'all got the wrestling. I use wrestling terms. Y'all got a 2-on-1, and then they had another child. And I said, okay, y'all barely making it now, I know, because they got tag team, and then they had the third child. I said, y'all about to lose y'all championship belts because they tagging in more than you want to.
Right.
And they understood, and we laughed and joked about it. But this is what we have to realize, that family is work.
Right.
Child
Yes.
rearing is work.
Yes.
Our relationship with our intimate partner is work.
Mhm.
It's not like we see on TV. It's not luxury. It's not fun all the time.
Yes.
It's not on vacation. But you do have to do those things to cultivate your relationships. That's what's
Okay.
important. You got to do
Okay.
things to cultivate.
Right. So, Ron, look, we've got a number of questions. So let's just start with this. The question was, what about those that make a lot of money, but we value our time that it took to provide that lifestyle, but our partner doesn't value because we can get more money, but we can't get our time back. So, what would you say to that? Thank you for the question.
You know, I'm gonna say this. What happened before all this money happened? This person didn't just become this way. We have to manage how everything. Listen, our children today, and I'll say this a lot, like many of us who are working class, middle class people didn't have a lot. We did like the Jeffersons, we moved on up. And we end up giving our kids all kinds of stuff. Then they don't have to really learn how to get it and this and that because we kind of give them what we didn't have. And a lot of us are very frustrated for them not having accountability. They think that everything should be given to them, and this happens in relationships. But when I think about being able to come and value that time that you're talking about, you want to get back was time that you should have been spending working on these things together. Because someone's saying I want something nice. Also, we have to remind people what it costs to have something nice, and that if I'm going to have this, that means that time is money. So I'm going to have to spend time somewhere to get the money to get these things. And if I lose all that time and you're unappreciative to it, and you take it for granted that this just you're supposed to get because we married, that's going to cause some resentment. You're going to
Yes.
see some problems in those relationships, and the people are going to be at heads, and eventually they're going to, listen, I tell you, they're going to meet somebody at their job who is working as hard as and they're going to become attracted to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
They not sexually,
Yeah.
but they're going to come emotionally attracted to them because they
Hmm.
identify what their struggle is.
Right.
While you're talking about, while the person is talking about, I'm making this, I'm gonna get this, and look at this, I'm gonna have this. Oh, don't worry, he gonna take care of this, or she gonna take care of this. And that those persons are going to find people that are like-minded like them. So
Hmm.
what I tell people a lot of times is keep up with your partner. Don't lay back. Don't ride in the carriage. Get on the
Mm.
horses and ride on the horse with them. Because
Mm.
as much as you in the carriage, soon the carriage can be released from the horse, and then you sitting there because the horse is gone.
Right.
So
Right.
ride on the horse with your partner because
Mhm.
that's what partnership is. That's what long-term commitment and relationships should be.
Yeah.
A partnership long term.
All right. Here's another question that one of the viewers has asked. What's your belief or take on marriage is a 50-50 relationship?
Yeah, I think it's 100 and 100 because you can't bring. Let me tell you this. You have to bring 100 and 100 because if you bring 100, 100, you have 200, and you have 100 to lose and still have 100. And I say this all the time that we have to measure what is the 100 that each person is bringing. You know, because you know if somebody bringing something in the relationship, you knew this before. You know, you knew. Let me say this: if you go to a partner and the partner do not know how to cook any food. They want to eat out all the time. They can't cook oodles and noodles, right? If they can't cook oodles and noodles, you know what the result of that is.
Right,
The
right.
result is there's some again we don't want to acknowledge these things. So
Mm-hmm.
this talks about this communication. Listen, I think that you need to. I know how to cook. You and I cook enough for us, but you need to learn how to cook some because
Right.
that becomes taxing on me to have to be the only person cooking, or the
Mm-hmm.
only person cleaning, or the only person doing these things. We have to bring 100% of all of our resources. We can't rest on our laurels,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times we rest on our looks
Right.
because guess what happens as we get older, our looks change, and then
Amen.
and as they change, there's some other looks that got people eyeballs popping out. So then I
Right.
think about I don't get no good meal. The house is not clean. They messy. They don't think they're not responsible with our money.
Mm-hmm.
I might as well just get somebody else who
Right.
I can, and I say that in just, but I really say that you have to continue to work and you have to hold your partners accountable. If they don't want to be held accountable, if you don't hold them accountable and you don't give them responsibility, you can't blame anybody but yourself. And
Right.
that's what the problem is. We want to say this person didn't do this, this person didn't do they don't do that. But did you hold them accountable?
Right.
And did you give them the responsibility? And if you didn't do those things, you can't get mad because they're only going to do what they're pressured or what they're pushed to do.
Yeah.
If we could just run red lights and the police would never come, people would just run red lights with no
Right.
problem. You would never worry.
Yeah.
But you have to hold people accountable. There have to be rules, there have to be standards, have to be boundaries that we build for our relationships. And then
Yeah.
one of the boundaries is, listen, you might not can cook now, but you need to start working. Listen, some people can say I'll start paying for. No, I'm not gonna pay for a chef to come. You need to learn.
Right.
I can,
Oh my
I,
gosh.
I
Yes.
can afford for us to get a
Right.
chef, maybe,
Right.
but you need to learn how to cook because what if something happens to me? If and this is the biggest issue I say
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of couples that's talking about 50-50. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be talking about 100 and 100 because if you're not bringing 100, what if something happens to your partner? You made a sickness and health.
Yeah.
You said sickness and health. Your partner could fall sick. You may have to now do things that you never thought you had to do. And what happens if everything was dependent on the partner because you
Right.
only was bringing 50%? You
Right.
can't take 100.
Right. That's true. Okay. So, Ron, and I knew that, I had like all these questions and things that I want to ask you. So, but I do want to get to this. Let's talk about trust and the importance of it and the effect that it has on any relationship, because that's the one thing I've met women. I know of women. I've had women friends who have I really like this guy, but I don't trust him. And so and I'm listening to that, and I'm trying to figure out, well, why are you even spending your time? Because to me, time is valuable. But why are you spending time with someone that you like? They can sex you up, but you don't trust them. So, what are your thoughts on that?
One of the things is what is the trust that you're having an issue with? Our trust and our attachment and all, our trust value, trust versus mistrust comes when we're children. And we become trustful or mistrustful of people based on what we experience as children. So if you go into what, listen, I trust everybody. I believe in the old saying, uh, you do me wrong, shame on you. You do me wrong again, shame on me. We ain't never getting to the third do me wrong because I trusted you and you did what you need to do, and that's cool. But the second time, now I know who I'm dealing with. And if the same thing happened again, I need to back up for a minute and say,
Right.
okay, this is not their fault anymore. It's my fault. And
Right.
again, what are you not trusting? Listen, we have to remember that a lot of our defense mechanisms are based on our own perception for
Yes,
ourselves.
yes,
So when you
yes.
see someone saying, "Are you trying to see somebody? Are you trying to do that?" Because you got a feeling that you want to see somebody, or you want to do something else. I remember getting in a conversation with a very good friend, a platonic friend of mine, husband. He was before he was her husband, before he was her husband, and he
Right.
kept saying, "Why was I always around?" And not realizing that, and I was around because we were friends. And I told him that, listen, I know all about you, and I have respect for myself that I wouldn't do something with on that, because how would I look? What kind of character would I have if I know that she's with you and she's wanting to do this? But again, that I said to him, some of that has to do with you.
Right, right, right.
You
And,
know,
and maybe a past experience that they hadn't worked
right.
through, they hadn't communicated and shared with that person they're with. Look, these are the things that I'm uncomfortable with. These are the things that I know I need growth with. So that person will be aware of the fact that, hey, you know what? I don't want to make my mate feel uncomfortable in a situation, or having somebody, I can't remember what the name of the song is, but how the guy, he's coming by the house, and he's singing, and I ain't even at home, the friends, I ain't even at home. But it's those things, and we just have to be aware. And that's part of just really talking about, what really gets under your skin, what hurts you, what affects you, how do you feel, about things.
And is your partner, listen, what does it say when you don't trust it? My question I ask people is, what does it say when you don't trust your partner?
Mm.
Because sometimes
Mm.
we can have a mistrust in everybody. And so we get in a relationship with somebody and we mistrust them, even though they're being trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
we push and push that they're doing something mistrustful, ultimately to the
Mm-hmm.
point that they are becoming fed up that, and I hate that people say, "Oh, no, this is not justified." Let me tell you something. If you tell me I'm something so many times, I may become it.
Right.
Because
Right.
because classic conditioning.
Right.
If you tell me that I'm a cheater, you tell me I'm trying to look at other women, you tell
Right.
me that I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing it. Guess what? Eventually, I'll be like, maybe I am.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and since you already believe I'm doing it, I might as well I might as well reap the benefit. And that again takes people. But I would say before you even get that, say, listen, you don't trust me. This would be best that we should go. This is what people don't want to do.
Right.
Be alone. Go your separate way. And say, listen, you don't trust
Yes.
me. You need to go.
Yes.
You need to get somebody that you do trust and move on. Because while you wasting time in this toxic place of someone who doesn't trust you, there's somebody who's ready to trust you and ready to rebuild life with you.
Right.
And so
Right.
I'm all for rebuilding life.
All right, I heard that. Okay, listen, I'm going to take like a really quick break, but when I come back, we're just going to do some rapid fire. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you to think about and be prepared for us to talk about is, what suggestions do you have for someone that's been in a relationship now, whether they're living together, been dating, they tight, I'm with my boo, but they don't want to get married. One party does, one party doesn't. So I'm going to ask you to weigh in on that. And you guys, we'll be right back. I love your questions. I see them. I see your comments. I will be right back. Ron, don't go anywhere.
Roll over. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Myth. If you get COVID-19, you'll recover after a few days. That myth is false. We're only just beginning to understand the effects of COVID-19 on the human body, as we're starting to see more and more people identifying as long haulers who are having symptoms for weeks, if not months, after their initial infection. Continue to wear a mask, socially distance, and wash your hands. Together, we can keep COVID out of school.
For ways to keep your community safe, go to backtoschooltogether.com.
All right, you guys, I see that you're lit up with comments and questions. Before we took this short break, and for those of you who are just tuning in, we're having like a fire the fire discussion with my guest, Mr. Ron Osborne-Williams, my East Coast brother from another mother. And we're just talking about relationships. And before we went to break, one of the things that I said to Ron, I'd like to do some rapid fire questions. And the first question is, for those people who has been in a relationship, long-term relationship, and one doesn't want to get married, what would you say to them?
The question you have to ask that partner is, why don't they want to get married? Because again, sometimes people have anxiety about marriage, because they believe that getting married is going to change the perfect relationship that they have right now. But we understand that a large majority of marriage is about patriarchy, about someone having a possession of another person, and we don't like that word. We don't like to say it, but sometimes people don't want to do that. And I know a lot of times we take the approach that the person doesn't want to get married because they still want to play the field. But guess what? Can you take 5 minutes and let's just take a minute back and watch what they're doing in that relationship you're in? Because that will tell you everything. What are they doing in that relationship you're in? Are they giving you all you things you need and all the things you want? Because I know a lot of people who do very good up until they get married, because people change. Because marriage is telling people that something is different. Y'all been married for the 5 years y'all been together, unless y'all haven't really been together. If you just been, making out and hooking up. But once you start really cohabitating, paying bills together, going through the struggle of many things in life, and that's why I say the thing about a lot of people who don't have socioeconomically challenged. They don't think about no wedding because they're too busy trying to survive, and they're enjoying the time with each other as much as possible.
Yeah. All right. Next rapid fire question here. We're getting down to the wire. Thank you guys for hanging in there. How do couples end up with unrealistic expectations of each other?
Other people. And let me say this.
Okay.
Let me just be very clear. There are people who will say they have an expectation for their partner that they never even seen in their own life, that they can't even match for themselves. So they have an expectation that this person should do this. A person who has a kid say, I can't be with nobody who got no kid. I'm sorry, you already got a kid. What do you mean you can't be with somebody who got a kid? These kind of things that you have expectations. Oh, they need to do this. And I say to people that when this is happening, ask that person to write down what their experience is with those things. And a lot of this comes from our transgenerational backgrounds. Like, what if our grandmothers, what do our fathers and mothers, and what did our generation, what does our family structures look like? And one of the big things we have to evaluate is a large majority of the relationships that we get in is based on that, what those structures are. And if we go into a relationship where that person comes from a household where they might not have had a father in the home, no father experience, you grew up in a house with a father and a mother, there's going to be some issues unless you guys talk about that before premarital, talk about that through relationship, and be mindful to market every time that an event happens and say, look, what is this about? Is this about me having an expectation based on what my father and mother's relationship was, and expectation of what you and your mother's relationship, or the relationship your mother had with you? You have to be having because it can work. I'm never going to say something can't work because I'm a strength-based, hopeful therapist. So I believe that you can work things, but it would not work unless you're going to work it. Unless you're going to sit back and say, you know what, you're right. I don't know what it means, and so you have an expectation from me that I don't know how to fulfill. Can you understand it? And the partner can say, I understand that because I understand that you don't know what it means to have that expectation feel. Now you're having a conversation. Now you're having a dialogue where it's no longer emotional frustration. Someone feeling like you're not putting in the effort. If you only got one leg, you can't run 100 meters. Okay. You only got one leg. But if your partner knows you can't run the 100 meters, they get a wheelchair and run the 100 meters with you in the wheelchair. And this is what we're talking about doing if you're serious about being in relationships.
Right. All right. So what are some red flags that people need to be aware of in a relationship? Because when you first meet, it's all, I saw her, she looking good. I saw him, he looking fly. Oh man, he looking sexy, she looking sexy. But when you start peeling back the onion layers, then it's like people need to have some awareness. And I know there are a lot of things, but just what comes up right off the top of your head, and the operative word here is red flags, that people need to be aware of when they're starting and getting into a relationship.
Our biggest problem with red flags, is people don't know what their red flags are. It's not until the red flag come up, because they haven't made a determination of what they want from somebody in a relationship. Most people are letting other people determine what they should have in a person in a relationship. They don't even know if the thing that they really want from this person is giving, but other people are telling them that's not good in a relationship. That's not what you want. How could you do that? And they're hearing that again. Many people will listen to other people and work from what other people are telling them. We are a conformist being. We're probably the most conformist. The other mammals are not conformists like that. We are conformists because we talk to each other. We hear. The other mammals are conformists for safety. Like, hey, there's something dangerous. Let's run. We say, oh, you know what? He's not giving you all the stuff you need. How could you not have somebody who can buy you this? How could you be with her when she ain't doing this, or how you doing that? And you got other people telling you these things. When if you go into a relationship, you have to decide what kind of person you want. And a lot of times knowing what kind of person you want is knowing what kind of person you are.
Right.
Because you can't want something that you don't know what you are. So sometimes I want a man like this, and then you turn around and put the mirror at yourself and say, I can't even have a man like this. I can't have a woman like this. Because I'm not any of those things, but I want that. I think that I heard this statement, and this is the most craziest thing, and I thought this was crazy that we have in America. Everybody wants to be luxury. Right? But the problem with everybody wanting luxury, and I'm using, I hope people can understand where I'm going with this. Everybody wants this ideal thing. Everybody wants luxury, but everybody not having something is what makes it luxury.
Right.
So everybody can't have it. So some people have to work and not have, and work with what they do have. Like, I can't get Jordans. I have to get Pumas. That's guess what? My Pumas are fly.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah. And it's how you show up in it, right? That right there, that's the key. Okay, so what would you say about being in a relationship, or is it even a relationship where each other, they're keeping score, and which leads the parties to become vengeful?
Toxic. All I can say is, listen, these are toxic people. Listen, why are you wasting your time with this? Listen, you are wasting so much time playing big cat with somebody. Guess what? There's so many people in the world. There's a person out, and I tell people this all the time. You sitting here with somebody that really don't want you, but you're trying to do whatever you can to stay with you, and every day the person that wants you, you don't want them because they're not that person, other person. And guess what? If you just gave it a chance to go in and see that, they might not have. Listen, let go of all these images that you have in your mind, and think about what you keep arguing that you want from Mr. Right or Miss Right. You want these things from Mr. Right, but go back and think about what you want inside, because what Mr. Right and Miss Right give you is only superficial a lot of times.
Right.
What you want from them and what makes your relationship with them not work is what you want for the inside. And there's a person right there every day care about you, concerned about you, about empathy, compassion, empowering you, doing all these things. But you see them as, oh, that's just John. Oh, that's just Mary. But I got Roberto.
Right.
I got Sasha.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And then you go, and that's what you get. But then you're upset in the end if we reevaluate what it means for us to be happy. What is making, not what other people think about us being happy. What are we thinking about being happy? A lot of times people get in relationships and they love their partner, and then they allow other people to challenge them, like, oh, he's so short. Oh, she's a little too chunky. Oh, but you love them.
Right.
So you should say, yep. She is. I like him short. He came right up to here to me. I love her. I love her curves. Listen, there's a lot more to sleep on. That's what. But again, you can't do that if you still have some insecurities inside yourself. And that's what we come where a lot of relationship problems come. People having their
Right.
own insecurities and they can't stand up for their partner.
Okay. All right. All right. So you've pretty much covered a lot of things, but look, I'm going to ask you this, and Ron, I'm going to say, all right, 60 seconds or less, because I can already feel. All
All right,
right.
60 seconds on that.
So we know that technology, social media, has overtaken relationships. So I know, actually, I said 60 seconds. So, what are your thoughts or your thought on people that actually spend more time on social media than on their relationship?
It's funny you say that because I did a research. We did a research with this when I was in my master's program about how technology affects relationships and what causes the problem in a relationship. Technology is killing most relationships because it now puts everything on blast. And not only on blast, but it takes away from the time that you could be spending with your partner. You go somewhere, you sit down at the table with your partner, you want to eat dinner, but they're taking pictures of themselves, they're looking at things on Instagram. Listen, that's a time for us to be together. And so you become tuned out. We have to remember that it's time, not just for a relationship, but in the family and for everything we do. Listen, take a break from that and spend some human time.
Yes.
Spend human time because human time will last. And guess what? This social media is the thing that's causing you problems because you're looking at people on Instagram that look like this and say, "Ooh, he's sexy. Ooh, she beautiful," and then you're looking at your partner saying, "Oh my God, look at this person. Why can't I have somebody like this?" Listen, you don't want nobody like that. They taking pictures all day. Who wants somebody taking pictures all day when you're sitting down at dinner with somebody?
Yes.
Come on. We got to get realistic. It's fun for entertainment. Use social media for what it should be used for,
Yes.
entertainment. If you're doing business or whatever. But I would really say spend a lot more time with your partner. Have in your family, in your relationship, say, hey, we have dates, no phone dates, no technology dates.
Mm.
But guess what? I also say technology helps people who are in these long distance relationships. The technology is good to,
Right.
to see your partner every day. So this is a plus and a minus. But I would say that in live person, leave the technology alone and spend more time with the person because you're not getting to know them. You're getting to know what the baby, how many shows the baby ain't gonna go on because he got kicked off for his statement. You're not learning any more about how my day was at work, how I feel, how good you look. You ain't even hear that because you telling me about, oh, what's the name? Got this new wig. I'm gonna think about. Listen, let's deal with our human contact, our human praise to each other, and leave the technology alone. It's a killer. Is a
Yeah.
killer. Is a killer. Is a killer.
Right.
It can be useful, but it's a killer.
Right. All right. So we're going to take like literally less than 30-second break. And Ron, when we come back, I'm going to ask you, what is it that you want people to take away from watching the show today? And I do want to tell you, I just popped up, someone said, we need to have this brother back again. And I knew it was so much. I didn't even get to half of the questions that I wanted to ask you, but I know that you'll be willing to come back. But you guys don't go anywhere. I want you to hear Ron's parting remarks. So, Ron, we'll be right back.
Thank you for watching the You Didn't Get the Memo show with your inspirational host, Gloria Bailey Ray. It's your contributions that make this happen. To become a sponsor, send an email to youdidn'tgetthememo@gmail. That's the letter U, didn't get the memo. If you're not in a space to be a sponsor, but you like what you hear, we simply ask that you support what you like by making a contribution to the show. There are 3 ways to make an online donation. Visit paypal.me/Gloria Bailey Ray or Cash App or Venmo, Gloria Bailey Ray. Give what you can. Your support is appreciated.
All right, you guys, I love it. Thank you so much for the love and the feedback to my guest. Before we took this short break, Ron, I ask you, what is it? Now, we've covered a whole lot, but what is it that you want people watching the show today to take away?
First thing, and let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, Gloria. First thing I want you to take away is applaud Gloria for what she's doing. Let me tell you something. She could come on here and be talking about all kinds of other foolishness. And what's important to me is that we see more people trying to help develop the communication with us as people. She brought me on, and I was welcome to come on because whenever I get the opportunity to share with people my ideas about communication, and I'll say that, listen, I'm not perfect in communication. I'll never admit, but I work on it. And that's what I would say for anybody. Relationships is not something that you could be perfect in. You have to work on them, but you also have to work on yourself to be ready to work on those relationships. And so if I take anything away from the day, and what you heard me say is work on yourself so you can work better on the relationships that you are in. Because if you don't, you will never be able to be in a good relationship because you will always be having the deficit of yourself. So that's what I would say for the day. And I would just say again, thank you so much for having me on. And folks, support, support, support people who are doing things to benefit us as a people. We support people who bring us down, who build the negative narratives about us. But here's somebody who has a show that's bringing people on to empower us. I reviewed all the shows, even the one with the congressman, the congresswoman way back. And when you begin to think about this, my people, it is important to have these kind of conversations where we're talking about uplifting us, empowering us, and giving us a way to go move forward, not move backwards, not housewives, not love and hip hop. We need to be moving towards building our healthy relationships for our families and for our community. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. I mean, I normally make me tear up, but so, geez, thank you, Ron, so much. Don't you go anywhere. I'll come back to you. I want to say to those of you that are tuning in, you'll be able to go back and watch the entire show because everything in here, the information that you just heard, that you got, it was just so on point. It's so on point. And I want to thank Mr. Ron Osborne-Williams again for being on the show. And y'all just check him out. I put his Facebook information up there, and I want you guys to follow him. The brother just has it going on. And I'm just humble. A gentle reminder to all of you to support our efforts by inquiring about our sponsorship package. And if you'd like to just be a supporter, you can do that so that I can continue to bring this type of programming to you, to keep you informed, to keep you empowered. And any donation, there's a blessing in the giving. So any donation that you feel and you're moved to give. But hey, I want to remind all of you to follow me on all my social media platforms and mark your calendar for every Tuesday at 5 p.m. for another great show on You Didn't Get the Memo. I will tell you guys, I will have a replay this coming up on the 10th. I actually am going to take a vacation, girl, got to regroup a little bit. But I do want to give a shout out to all my new viewers, my supporters, my donors. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for your support. As I always say, if you didn't take anything away from today's show, then it's you who really didn't get the memo. So until this time next week, I want you to log that date every Tuesday, 5 p.m. in your calendar. I want you to have a great week. Give thanks for all your blessings. Stay safe. Mask up. Practice self-care. Be kind. Always, always, always. I can't say this enough. Always, you guys, pay it forward. And remember this, the quality of your life is determined by the decisions that you made. I'm your host, Gloria Bailey Ray. Peace and blessings to all of you.